Hey guys, hello, it's Friday and it's time for the new video. Tonight I'm going to teach you Elephant Gambit, but this time for black. You already have a video how to play against this Gambit with white pieces. I'm just gonna give you some creative ideas this time for black as well. And of all the openings that we've done so far, I'm talking about Gambits, this one is one of those serious ones. I even found out that the guy from Russia, whose name is Skachkov, Grandmaster, plays this opening on regular basis. I believe after this lecture, Elephant Gambit will become one of your most favorite weapons, but once again, I just want to tell you, it could be played in even serious games. You know that I always warn you, I always give you like some sort of basic information, but also warning should you be playing that in Blitz Bullet or just rapid and tournament games. This one could be used in serious games. Unlike previous videos, I'm going to start with the main variations, and in the next video I'm just going to teach you how to play against the anti-Elephant Gambit variations, where they go with moves like Knight c3 and d3. So let's get started, and let's immediately go with e takes d5 main variation. When they play e takes d5, we just go with e4. That actually presents the main idea, kicking the knight away from f3. And here, I'm not just going to kill you with like tons of analysis and stuff and what to do against which move, but against every single one of these moves, such as knight g1, knight d4, or just knight e5, I'll give you a good model game to follow against these moves. Of course, the queen e2 is just the main line, but about queen e2 a little bit later. So let's just first start with the knight g1 line. After knight g1, knight f6, d3, queen d5. It's quite interesting that this game was played by Emanuel Lasker with the black pieces. You certainly heard of this world champion, and Lasker, whoever analyzed his master opus and his games, this is one of his better games, and I really enjoyed it. After knight c3, bishop b4, bishop d2, played queen e6. Quite a good game in terms of keeping up initiative. He could have taken a c3 and played e takes d3 or whatever. He played queen e6, forcing the queen to come on e2, and then he played knight c6 to be able to jump with this knight on d4 and chasing away this queen. So after knight c6, knight e4, Lasker played castles. Quite an interesting position, because they're not allowed to, for example, in the game with c3, they can take on f6, take on b4 because of queen b2, and the rook on a1 is hanging just like bishop on b4. In case of castles, I know that it looks tempting to most of you to play bishop a3, but it could be faced with c3, although I don't think how they would defend after knight e4 followed by queen c6. So in the game was c3, Lasker played knight to d5. A very nice, I would even say beautiful piece sack, because if you take this piece, you can jump with this knight into the center of the board, which was initially one of the points behind the 7th move by Lasker, queen e6. And now this queen has to go back on d1, and you can immediately get a piece back after f5, after which I just want to point out the weak position of the black pieces on the back rank. I like black's game very much, and that's why I consider this Gambit pretty serious one for playing with black and against second move knight f3. So after rook e8, knight g5, queen d7, he threatened that queen, queen h5 threatening mate on h7, h6, c takes b4. Finally, this guy won the bishop on b4, although Lasker took on g5, and after queen g5, jumped with the knight straight into the game with the knight on d4. So let's discuss about this position a little bit more. What does he have? He's got like 3 pieces, possibly 2 good knights to attack, pretty good control of the e file. And now he wants to play queen c6 with a good center. On the other hand, white is like really in severe problems with all these pieces onto the back rank. And white played bishop c3, queen c6, and he couldn't defend this position any longer. I believe that probably only possibility here maybe was queen d2 to save the game or to look at some sort of salvation in the position. But you know what, after that, I guess knight b4 would be interesting. Then maybe Lasker would carry on with bishop f5. Maybe even a5 is interesting as continuation. There are like lots of lanes, but definitely queen d2 was maybe a little bit better. He played king b1, hoping that after knight c3, b takes c3, he's going to be able to equalize after queen c3. But Lasker showed his class, played knight b5, c4, knight c3. He wasn't satisfied to win the material with the knight e1, but played queen a4, threatened queen d1, and after queen d2, took on d1, played queen a3, bishop d7, threatening check, challenging that, took on a4, played bishop a4, and came up with this checkmate. This is game Stiasny against Lasker, played in Germany back to 1900. And this was like very nice example to start this elephant gambit with. Although I don't think your opponents will play knight g1. First of all, this knight looks stupid. And when I spoke to, you know that I always like approach when I want to teach you something a week before that, because we usually do these lessons, lectures on Fridays. I just... for example, know what am I going to teach you the next week, and then the following week I just practice those positions. Speaking of this variation, I just practiced a lot elephant gambit. My results are fantastic. Knight g1 no one played. People usually play knight d4. Knight d4 is a stupid move, if you ask me. It looks tempting, like I'm like removing my knight from a threat, placing into the center. But after I take by d5, this knight on d4 is just hanging, right? So they just have to put a knight back. Interesting enough, in Blitz, a couple of guys tried knight b5. Probably they were hoping that I should be such a big idiot and blunder this fork. Unfortunately, I had to disappoint these guys and I played queen e5. Queen e5 is a nice move. You want to kick the knight away with a6, place bishop on the diagonal and create battery bishop d6, which is good against the short castle by white. And you also want to play and develop this knight to c6. So if they play c3 to defend this knight, you play knight f6 and just do the same. In case they play bishop e2, you play knight c6, take by queen, develop your bishop on d6, and it turned out in practice that this pawn on e4, white usually feels like a bone in his throat, and they have lots of problems in practice. For example, d4, you take, bishop e6, and now you have a good and a pretty wide choice between long and short castle. After knight b3, what happened in the game? Knight f6 is the best. Knight c3 and queen e5. For example, I also played like a couple of games like this. Queen on e5 has a couple of points. First of all, I prevent both d4 and f4 by white at any point. So you can't play in the center. He probably has to complete development with bishop e2, knight c6 castles. And this is my second and probably more important point. I want to mate you. Of course, you have to play g3. And when you play g3, I play bishop h3 with a tempi. So when I play that with a tempi, it gives me another move with a tempi. My king on c8 does perfectly fine here. And after they do d3, we play h5 followed by h4. All things considered, I played like... First of all, I crushed all my opponents very easily in these positions. We've got an upper hands here. We're not even down any material. We just have nice attack on the king side. I want to play h4, h takes g3, and with lots of king side sacrifices. If they play bishop f4, which they usually played, we can decide between playing queen f5 and queen e7. Both are fine, and you just carry on with rook takes d6 and carry on with the attack. Finally, they can play third move in this position, and it's knight jumps on e5. I found the game, played many years ago, but I want to show you this game because, not just because of its beauty. The game was played back to Prague 1943, but because I want to show you the game, it was very nice attack by black. So queen takes d5, d4, of course you take en passant, they have to take by knight, knight c6, knight c3, and queen on f5. I insist on this move because I've seen so many games here. Queen went on a5, e6, some guys did it on d4. We don't want to do any of these. Queen just goes and ends up on f5. You now maybe want to threaten knight or bishop before, more likely bishop before. This guy played a3, bishop d7. I don't have to explain you that you want to play the long castle. Bishop e2, knight f6, short castle, long castle. I usually like positions with opposite side castles because it gives black great attacking, not black, but usually side with a long castle. It gives a great attacking opportunities. After a long castle, they just went with bishop e3. We just go with h5. The idea behind h5 is to jump with this knight on g4 and play bishop d6. Also, I might want to push my pawn up to h3 and create some weaknesses on the light squares. After like f3, bishop d6, b4. Quite a logical approach by white, and I would say quite tempting, because while we set up attack on the king side, this guy just tries to do the same on the queen side. So knight e5 probably threatens some knight c4, chasing away this bishop. f4, knight eg4. I don't think that e4 was a good move, particularly Enric to d on e8. He threatens knight e3 to win the bishop pair. He took the open e-file. He just wants to place this bishop here, and probably white should give anything just to be able to play bishop c5. Unfortunately, at the moment, he can't do that. Rook f3, bishop c6. So this guy just helped him and played g5. Took advantage of a weak rook on g3, potentially weak pawn on f4. After h3, for all of you who like tactics, guys, let's go find a move for black to carry on. I'm not even sure if black played all the best moves in this position, but rook e2 just looks so tempting, and I like it so much. So after rook e2, they can take by queen or by knight. That's exactly the point. Taking, I mean, you should have like lots of fun at home analyzing these variations. Removing this bishop helps you a lot in terms of releasing the pressure from g4. Once he takes, he wouldn't be able to take again on g4 and swap off like all the pieces. So h takes g4, h takes g4, knight e2. He played this queen h7. A very nice move because he threatens check and knight to e4 with a mating threats. The guy played knight f2 to prevent that. Queen h2, this one, and played g takes f4. You can't touch on f4 because your rook on g3 is going to eventually hang. He took on f4, bishop f4, and played queen to d3. Don't forget, if you play like this one almost wins the game. Not that you only attack the knight, but you also attack pawn on g2. After queen d3, bishop g3, queen g3, bishop b5. I like this approach. He threatens rook e8. Queen h2, rook h2, rook e1, played this g3, and after bishop c6, played knight a4, and came up with f5, rook h4, and knight f2. All things considered, I just wanted to show you like the complete game because it really, it was really nice attack by black, and this Florian guy playing black crushed white's approach with a knight e5 and d4. So it's time finally to check the line with the queen on e2, where white just threatens this pawn on e4. After queen e2, that's what literally everyone does. You just have to play knight f6. And now they have two approaches. They can play d3 or they can play knight c3. It's more likely to expect by people to play d3. By top guys, by guys who know some theory, I expect knight c3. Let's take a look first at d3. Those who do d3, you play queen d5. They have to play knight bd2, knight f2 d2, or knight c3. Knight c3 as the most logical and tempting move to chase away the queen with a tempo. You face with bishop b4, you take on c3 and play castles. Now I'll mention the name of my best friend, Tiana Sharcha, who showed me this trick like 20 years ago. And she told me, this is good gambit, because if they take on f6, you just take on f3. And then I told her, so Tiana, who's gonna play this with white pieces and making such a big blunder? Come on, man, this is nice trick. I said, please don't tell me that no one ever played that. Then she became Serbian, at that time Yugoslavian champion. She went on the European Championship, and the very first game in the first round against Austrian champion, she played a game like this, and the Austrian champion took on f6. She took on f3. But the story has its continuation. She lost this game in 5 moves from here. Don't ask me how, don't ask me why, but she lost this game, and I couldn't stop teasing her about this game. So, yes, of course, if you take on f3, you're just completely winning because you win a piece, but how did she manage to lose that game? That's craziness. In case of d takes c4, you just have to take by knight threatening on c3. How? If they play rook d1, you play queen c6. And this is a pretty powerful queen on c6, because you threaten to take on c3, but at the same time you want to play rook e8, and this queen can go on g6. So in case of knight d4, in case of knight e5, you have this beautiful move, not knight c3, which happened a couple of games, queen a4. This is my improvement in comparison to many games there. In case of knight d4, you just go queen g6, and they have problems to complete development. In case of bishop d4, you go knight d6, threatening rook e8, go with this and play bishop f5. In all these variations, black is just easily better. If they don't play rook d1 but queen d3, you take on c3, play rook e8, knight c6, and when they go with like rook to d1, you play queen a2. You're just up a pawn. Usually in gambits, we're supposed to end up being down a pawn. Not being up a pawn. Here, black is just so much better. All things considered, knight c3 is not a good move for white. Lots of players go with this knight f2 d2. I remember when I was teaching my students in the past how to play this variation, I taught them to play knight f2 d2. And I was always insisting, play like this, play knight c3, they can play bishop b4, and you just get a pawn on e4. I was very superficially approaching to this opening. I didn't believe it could be so dangerous. So after knight c6, knight c3, queen a5, knight to e4. Interesting line could be knight to b3. That line could be interesting, and after knight b3, bishop b4, bishop d2, bishop e6, knight e4, queen a4. In theory, this position is considered, and on the paper, like so much better for white, close to winning. But with this queen on a4, they can play long castle. They have some problems with development, and that's why you have to take this game like possibly like a game with lots of compensation for black h5, so bishop h3 to be met with the knight g4 and play some f5. You just go for craziness. You just go for some mad stuff here, and looks like black can create some compensation. In case of knight f2 d2, knight c6, knight c3, queen a5, and knight e4, which generally speaking, everyone did against me. I played bishop e6. People tend to go with bishop d2, not to take on f6, because taking on f6 just gives you, after g takes f6, bishop d2, long castles, great, not just compensation for the given pawn, but initiative. You threaten knight d4, you threaten f5, bishop g7, bringing this rook here, threaten to take on b2. Black is fantastic. That's why they play bishop d2, long castles, and long castle simply doesn't work because of bishop a2. On the other hand, if they play a3, it's just taking so much time because we go knight d4, queen d1, and now you can launch an attack. Just like you see, people also like to play knight bd2. Knight bd2 looks like they're about to win this pawn on e4. You shouldn't panic about this one as well. Position is just fine. You just play some knight c6, and with the same ideas like I previously showed you, you just go with the stuff like bishop e6. So when they play like knight takes e4, you have that bishop e6 with a great initiative. And in case they play d takes e4, you just go with, you have possibility to play queen on h5, c5, a5, e6, all these possibilities, and that should give you some compensation. Two best moves are queen e6 or queen h5 in that position. And when you check all these moves, we just have to check one more line. It's knight c3. Speaking of knight c3 line, they just want to win the pawn on e4. You play bishop e7, and they win second pawn on e4. You finally and luckily get one pawn back, taking on d5, and they have to go d3 or knight c3. This variation is considered to be best for white in practice. Although not everyone will know it, and that's why I can tell, play this line. For black, it's quite challenging, and I don't think, for example, I didn't know about this refutation till I prepared this line for you. So in case of knight c3, you have this knight before threatening here, queen d1, bishop f5, d3, and c5, with the idea of placing this knight to c6 and going to d4. In case of d4, you just go with castles, and I won like an interesting game here. d4 and c4 is such a tempting approach. I played bishop before, probably that's what my opponent missed. Probably he missed not just this, but he also missed that after bishop b4, he can play bishop d2, because bishop b2 gives me a great chance to go with a huge initiative with knight f4. After king d1, I played knight b6, and you have to be more than satisfied to play game down your opponent to play with this bad king on d1. And in case of d4 castles, bishop d2, rook e8, castles f5. You just fight against the knight on e4 and queen on e2, sorry. Knight c3, b takes, bishop g5. I found a game played in Olympiad many years ago, played like this. So you've just seen the best variations for black against this main approach, but let me just show you objectively what is like the best for white. They should be going with d3, castles, queen d1. Who would say that after all these moves you just have to play first of all inactive d3, or let's just say half active, and they should be going with this queen back on d1. You play c5, that's my approach, to get some space at least. Knight c6, castles, bishop f5. After rook e1, my novelty is queen c7. In practice, they played queen d7. They played some other moves, but I like queen c7. My queen removes from an open d file. I want to bring my rook from a8 to d8. Another rook will come to e8. I want to jump with this knight on f4, and I want to get a good game. After like bishop f1, rook a to d8, h6 to create shelter for this bishop, also not to give him any kind of jumps here. And I believe that black has decent compensation for the given pawn. I'm not saying it's one of the best positions you've seen, but definitely if you're ready to play Gambit, you probably wouldn't mind to play a game like this.